I started the company in Norway it was kind of like the first seed of the company came in fall of 2006. I had 3 kids, my youngest one was just born, and my daughter started school, and I realized that kids were getting cell phones at the age of 6. At that point, I did not know anything about tech. I wasn't a tech person at all. I wasn't a business person. I was a mother. I was working international with idealistic projects. But the whole thing of kids getting cell phones, looking at my own kids and knowing that my own kids will get into that phase very soon, or actually was already there, with that, my life took a different turn. You need to spend enough time finding the right people. Don't find people that are identical to you. You need to find people who complement you. Very often starting a business with your best friend is not going to work because you're too similar. You need to complement each other. Try to look at yourself as yourself as the founder, or look at the founding team if you're several, and say, what do we have and what don't we have, and how can we get what we're missing? And it's often a lot easier to find yes people than no people. And with yes people, I mean people who will just like praise you no matter what you do. You need to find the no people who question what you do, who question the business, who question the business models. And then I'm especially thinking not like the first few months, but when you're a little bit into the business. From my experience, you need to build a good story. Luckily, we have a good story. We have a strong story that creates media attention, and we get the best based on the story. You need, of course, a good product, and you need a way to scale those products. But in the end, again, it all comes down to the team. We used Norway as our playground or sandbox, right, for technology. That's where we started. That's where we developed the tech. That's where we got our services out on the market, where we improved our services, got the feedback from the users. We built a media case, a PR story. We managed to get to build a brand, which was quite important. So that was a really good place to start in that respect. Now when the services are ready for the global market, it's a good time to move abroad. That said, I think that for my next gig, my next company, I will start up in the US much earlier, probably from the beginning, because the ecosystem is just simply much better here. It's been extremely important for the business to take the move to Silicon Valley. For us, it was a part of 2 things. It was a part of one, access to a larger market than Norway is. Europe is large. Europe is actually larger than the US, but Europe is really fragmented in terms of both cultures and languages and legal issues and stuff like that. So when we were deciding what market to go for, we decided on the US based on language and size of the market. So that was one thing. But choosing to move to Silicon Valley instead of other areas, and actually cheaper areas than the US, had very much to do with the ecosystem. And I've been here now for nearly a year. And the ecosystem here is incredible. I have traveled a bit back and forth between Norway and the US for a few years. Building network, I've used Innovation Norway for setting up some meetings at the first trip we had, but mainly it's really been networking. You can't sit around waiting to be invited to things. You need to actively pursue a role. And I think one of the things I've been good at in building the business has been to not be afraid of knocking on doors. I've knocked on doors the whole time, all the way, and I've knocked on the C-level doors, not the further down in the organization doors, but the top management level doors. It's harder to get meetings with them. They're mostly more busy. They're not used to taking meetings with people founding new companies. But so far, I've never had a no. It takes more time. You need to be more persistent. But if you say that I'll meet you anywhere in the world at any time that suits you, but I need an hour, I've always gotten that hour, and many of these relationships have continued afterwards. The first investor I brought on board was a co-founder of probably the most successful MVNO mobile virtual operator in Europe in terms of exit value per customer. So he had sold the company a year or so earlier. He had moved to Spain with his family, and what I basically did was that I knew I needed someone within the telecom space. I knew I needed someone who knew business and who knew the space that I was entering. So I'd done some research. I knew he was in Spain. I knew he was in Spain at the exact time when I was going to meet him. I had not organized a meeting. I booked my plane tickets. From the airport, I called him and said that I'm on my way to Spain to meet you, and I'm not going home before you meet me. And he took the time. He told me later that he only had arranged for, like, his plan was spending like half an hour to have a coffee and talk to me, and just like, you need to do that when someone is like flying to Spain to meet you. But that half an hour turned into a whole day and a new meeting the next day, and still closing the investment took like a couple of months, 3 months actually, I think. But he was my first investor. After that, I mean, like, we had the whole crack of fall of 2008. That was really, really hard. We have had financial support from Innovation Norway as grants, but fundraising has so far been done in Norway from business angels, and we also have a local bank as an investor and a investment fund. It's not like a VC. It's more like they handle the fortunes of wealthy people. So they put like 90% into the stock market and 10% into the grey market. We're part of the grey market portfolio. We also have Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife, as an investor. She joined us this winter, so just a few months ago. So just after I moved to Silicon Valley last summer, I got a call from the Smith team, because Will and Jada's daughter Willow started using bSafe, one of our services, and they were looking for a safety service for mobile phones for one of their initiatives. So it was like, first was a few months of what I would call dating, meeting the team and discussing various business models with them. I was invited to their house to meet some of their friends, and then they invested in the company. That's really exciting for us right now. Entering the tech world and the business world, to begin with, again, I didn't think about it, but I quickly realized that there are some issues. There are positive issues and there are negative issues. I think the first time I realized my gender was in the very early phase of Bipper. Bipper was not a software. Bipper was actually a new type of mobile phone. It was before the apps entered the world. I mean, kids didn't have smartphones. It was quite early stage, right? So it was all like, how can you develop something where parents can get the control and monitoring the safety features. And I needed to get a new type of cell phone produced. We had designed the device, everything was good, and where do you produce it? Yes, you go to China. Everything is produced in China. And one of the biggest portals of the world to kind of connect buyers with sellers or manufacturers is Alibaba. So I put out a request on Alibaba saying that, okay, we want this amount of phones produced, we have this design, these are the technical specifications. By that time I did have a tech team helping me with like defining all of this. And I signed the request, CEO Mrs. Silje Vallestad. And I waited for a week, I waited for two, and I didn't get a single response. After 2 weeks, I was like, listen, let me try one thing. So I changed Mrs. to Mr. And everyone responded. I had tons of responses after I changed Mrs. to Mr. And I just did it as a joke to just like, I don't know, I guess it was something inside me that said that maybe that's the issue. But to get that confirmation that was actually major, it made a major change when I changed Mrs. to Mr. was a big thing. And I was the only employee in the company at the time. So it was, to begin with, it was actually quite easy just emailing back and forth. When they started calling, I had an issue. So I ended up being Miss Marie, Mr. Vallestad's personal secretary. And Mr. Vallestad was always in meetings, and Miss Marie was the only one answering the phone. So like I would speak to the guys on the phone, and like, I don't know, half an hour later, I would have an email from them saying that, oh, we just had a call with your secretary, and blah, blah, blah. So that was quite a shock. That was quite a shock. It's the only time I've experienced something I know as defining as that. But I think you can say partly from personal experience, but just as much from speaking to other female founders and I know reading research and articles on female founders and female CEOs that women have a harder time in getting investments, in getting deals done, because we're left out of the male bonding clubs.